a collection of 8 important 17th century Dutch and Flemish paintings from the collection of financier Saul Steinberg. Together, their worth is estimated somewhere north of $7 million. Yes, indeed, little things mean a lot at Sotheby's. And talk about serendipity. This folk art classic, Hannah Cahoon's Tree of Life, was found by accident. A retired couple in New England, looking in a flea market for old frames to restore, picked up one with a print of an English hunt scene. Taking the frame apart more than a year later, they found 2 colored drawings that turned out to be valuable Shaker art. This one alone is expected to fetch over $250,000 next month. For many, Christmas time means an electric train set. Aren't you sorry your mother threw yours out, especially when you learn that this HO Texas locomotive could bring between $5,000 and $8,000 next March? Feel like going to a movie tonight? Feel like buying a collection of movie posters? A collection of 375 movie posters, the largest ever, will come up for bid next March. The posters from the 1910s through the 1970s could bring up to $1 million. This one alone is thought to be worth upward of $80,000, which is enough to buy buttered popcorn for even the hungriest of mummies and daddies. Need a place to store your capital gains records? How about this 17th century Mexican Oaxacan inlaid walnut traveling desk? To be auctioned in early February as part of a sale of African, Oceanic, American Indian, and Latin American art, it's expected to draw between $10,000 and $15,000. Or maybe you know somebody nice who would be content just with a little simple jewelry. This carved rock crystal and diamond bangle bracelet from next April's auction of the estate of Martha Phillips, the legendary New York and Palm Beach fashion merchant, ought to go beautifully with torn jeans and cut-offs for a mere $10,000 to $12,000. What time is it? It's time to spend a couple of $100,000 next February for a fancy watch or clock like this rare Patek Philippe gold watch, which bings out the hour and the minutes on command, in case you're too blasé to want to have to look. The cost of the world's greatest wines is popping higher than the wildest champagne cork. This magnificent red Burgundy, a 1985 Romanée Conti, is one of a group of 8 expected to bring somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 in February. Bon appetit, if you can still afford to eat. Those just breaking into collecting might want to consider something like this Currier and Ives lithograph, Fast Trotters in Harlem Lane. Part of the Sotheby's Americana sale next month, it's expected to be sold for $3,000 to $5,000. There are no second acts in American life, wrote F. Scott Fitzgerald. You may not get a second chance to bid on this 1936 letter, in which the then out-of-favor author complained about being paid only $33 for a typing job. Too bad he's not here to collect the $4,000 to $6,000 his letter is expected to fetch next spring. When Babe Ruth was reminded that his newly signed contract during the presidency of Herbert Hoover was for a sum higher than the 31st president earned, he reportedly sniffed, "I had a better year than he did." Now a paycheck of Hoover and one of his successor, Franklin D. Roosevelt, are being auctioned. The only thing a bidder would have to fear, presumably, is fear of being outbid at $5,000 to $7,000. Looking for next year's stocking stuffers? How about this collection of brilliantly, delicately painted Chinese snuff bottles, going on the block in March and expected to draw between $2,000 for the simplest to $30,000 for the most intricate. Also up to snuff is this Fabergé letter opener, which will have one more bill to slice open if you win it for an estimated $5,000 to $8,000. To serve your next Christmas dinner, what could be more tasteful than this large 1775 era silver salver? For between $200,000 and $300,000, you'll be able to display your Rococo taste, and it makes the cheeseburgers look great. Or perhaps you'd like to confine yourself to this Russian Rococo silver box for a mere $5 to $7 grand. Or this Georgian box made from a fossilized mammoth tooth. That, in the $500 to $700 range, has an even smaller bite. Could you seriously think about buying any of this stuff? What should you look for in art investments? For some answers, let's go over now and meet tonight's special guest, Diana D. Brooks. Didi, welcome back.
Thank you, Louis. It's nice to be here.
It's a real pleasure to see you again. Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Diana Brooks is the #1 executive of the world's #1 auction house, Sotheby's. She's been CEO of Sotheby's Western Hemisphere operations since 1990, adding the global portfolio in 1994. Didi, as she is now known on every continent, graduated from Yale in 1973 and was a Citibank lending officer for 6 years before joining Sotheby's in 1979. Didi, how important was all the publicity about Jackie Onassis' collection to the auction business generally?
Very important. And I think it had an impact that we will see for many years to come.
How's business?
Business is good. That was obviously the highlight this year, but business has been good.
How important is a roaring stock market to your business?
I think that generally speaking, we're always helped by a great stock market. Sometimes we lag the market a bit, and I think right now we may be seeing a bit of that, but we are seeing an awful lot of strong American buying as a result of that stock market.
What's hot and what's not in the auction business these days?
I think anything of great quality is hot, no matter what market it's in. People have become more selective across markets, but areas such as American paintings, American furniture, Impressionist paintings, you're seeing silver, you're seeing top prices paid for things that are of great quality.
Is the art market as strong as it got in the late 80s?
It is as strong in certain areas because of the quality of material that has come on the market, but the middle of the market is not as strong as it was at that time.
We've talked about this before, but when people hear the kind of figures we were just talking about, they sometimes get a little scared. What's the least amount of money that somebody could seriously get started in collecting with?
Well, I think that last year I told you if you wanted to buy toy soldiers, it would be about $20,000. I think you can, in certain areas, start with $10,000 or $20,000, but the market you would get into would have to be...
well, if you had a few hundred, you could buy the Mammoth box, for example.
You certainly could, but that wouldn't form a collection in itself.
We talked about estimated prices. The Onassis collection went way above that. Some people thought you had deliberately underpriced it, did you?
Absolutely not. I think that a lot of people have questioned some of the estimates, and all I would say to you is what we tried to do was to estimate based on the quality of the material and to take some account of provenance. But if you had told me at the time that we were estimated that the Ben Hogan irons would go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think you would have thought I was crazy if I'd put that kind of estimate. So I think that we did believe it was up to the public. It was just pretty surprising what the public did.
In general, how close to your estimates do auctions usually come out?
Pretty good. I think that when you really look at it, of the material that sells, probably about a third of it sells for above our high estimate. About 40% of it sells within the estimates and about 25% below the estimate. So we're pretty accurate, I think, overall.
Another area where Sotheby's operates that's of interest to practically every family is real estate. You're at the high end, but what are you finding about real estate these days?
This has been a good year in real estate, particularly strong in New York City. Continues to be very strong in those high-end markets such as Beverly Hills, Beverly Hills, Palm Beach, areas like Greenwich, Connecticut, the Hamptons. All of the areas that we operate direct brokerage in have been very strong this year.
Are we topping the peaks reached in the 80s, or are we still approaching them?
In certain parts of the real estate market, we are topping them. But that, again, is at the very high end. It's just like art. People have an enormous amount of money to spend, and they do tend to spend it in those areas.
This is our split-level society again, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Well, we have a one-level panel for you, the very highest, so let's turn to them, starting with Mike Collins.
Thank you, Lou. Didi, Lou mentioned a second ago the influence of the stock market on your business, helping it out. Silicon Valley, we've had a lot of multimillionaires created out there, some billionaires. Do you see any effect yet, and are these people ever going to be interested in buying art or other objects on the internet?
I think the internet is a very exciting opportunity for us. It will take some time. Color resolution, all sorts of issues in terms of bidding and so forth will become clear over a long period of time. In terms of Silicon Valley and its impact on our market, there hasn't been a significant market impact from that kind of buying yet. There are some people who buy. I would say we've had much more influence this year from the financial services industry and also from entrepreneurs who have built companies and then taken them public.
Dee Dee, we think of a lot of the investing in old masters' paintings as being from old money, yet you've just talked about Silicon Valley, the financial world. Do you find that their purchases of arts take the same patterns?
It's interesting. In the financial services industry, I would say it's all over the map. It's everything from contemporary paintings to old master paintings. But we do find, for example, people from the real estate business tend to be much more contemporary focused, so they buy contemporary art. In terms of entrepreneurs, it very much reflects where they come from in this country, what area they